it's time to record, and that means that it's time for my cat to lick himself and to make biscuits. Good morning. So today I want to talk about fame, and I want to talk about, kind of what happens when you get famous, because it's been kind of in the back of my brain with what Chappell Roan has been talking about recently with, her experiences with fame and her very rapid rise to fame over the last 6 months, I would say. And I wanted to give you a sense for what my experience has been like with a couple of caveats. Number one, the caveat being that I am not nearly as famous as Chappell Roan is right now. If she's on the A list, I'm way down on like the Z list in terms of celebrity. And then the other thing being that I am a man, I am not a woman, and therefore my experiences with fame are going to be very, very different than hers. Mine are going to be much, much easier. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. I do want to say before I start that I am very happy with what has happened in my life. I would not change my life. I would not want to go back to what my life was like back in 2021. I am now, I'm making a very good living doing what I love. I'm making such a good living that, my wife was able to quit her job earlier this year. She's now my full-time photographer, videographer, video editor. She's the one editing this video. So, Zhaxi Whipper Enterprises is now a full-time family business for the both of us. And we are #blessed to be able to make this our living. Even as I get in later into this video and I talk about some of the unpleasant experiences I have had with fame, know that I would not change it. I would not want to trade it. But I do want to give you kind of a look into what my life is like nowadays. So things for me, they really started to blow up in October of 2021 when I hit the digital lottery. As I like to say, I had been working at my local Renaissance fair for over a decade at that point. I've been working at WBUR, Boston's NPR news station, for over a decade as well. I was the midday anchor there, so I had, some experience with people knowing who I was, whether it was my name, whether it was my voice, or whether it was my face from having seen Zhaxi Whipper sometime between 2008 and 2021. Once things started to blow up for me online, I didn't want my fan interactions to change. And I would say for the most part, they haven't changed significantly. I used to always take photos with fans after shows. I still take photos with fans after every single Ren Fair show. The only difference is those photo lines have gotten a lot longer. And so a big part of my post-show has become, how do I manage those crowds in such a way that I'm not interfering with the rest of the Renaissance Festival, and I'm not interfering with the act that's on the stage right after me. Some festivals have been kind enough, they've built in buffers between myself and the next show, so I have time to manage that crowd, get them all out of there, and then for the next show to start. Other times I have to take them off to the side, whatever it may be. The big change for me has been how I let people take photos. And there are a couple of reasons behind that. One was just, when I had 30, 45-minute photo lines, and sometimes I've only got 45 minutes between shows, I had to speed it up. I had to do one of two things. I had to either start charging people for photos, which I didn't want to do and I still don't want to do, or I needed to find a way to speed it up. I started encouraging people to put it on selfie mode and give it to me. It wasn't a hard rule, but I would strongly encourage it. And that, if I'm taking the selfie, I've got it down to a science. I've got it down to a system. At this point, I've seen basically everyone's phone also, so I know how everyone's phone works. I can keep that line moving. It became a hard rule earlier this year. I had a couple of unpleasant experiences with fans. Fans got handsy. Fans got inappropriate in person. And I was like, all right, this if this is going to be the situation, by getting the phone in my hand, I have to take a step forward to take the selfie and have us both in the picture, and that makes it harder for them to be inappropriate. And that was for my own sanity and my own safety. And that's the other thing that I've noticed, which is mental health is a big thing. I've always prided myself on keeping my mental health in a good place, generally being in a good place, especially as I've become an adult, an older adult. I'm in my late 30s now, and I'm so grateful that this happened in my mid 30s as opposed to, say, my early 20s, because I've, just experiencing that extra decade of life has made this transition so much easier for me. And keeping everything in perspective, remembering that most likely this fame is temporary, and remembering that, how you treat people is how they're going to remember you. And so that's helped a lot. It's been harder to take time for myself, and it's been harder for me to keep an equilibrium and kind of, figure out of like, okay, how much jack are we putting out in the world, and how much jack am I keeping for myself? Am I just, experiencing life with my friends and family, making sure that I'm still staying in touch with my friends and family? There have been times when I basically haven't talked to anyone of my friends and family for like a month at a time because I'm so busy, or I'm traveling, or by the time I finish up a weekend, I just, I don't want to be social at all. And that has been an adjustment, and it's been a hard adjustment at times, remembering that even though there are people who want to see me each and every day, people who want to talk to me, I need to limit those interactions in some way so that I still have energy to, continue to be me. That's the hardest thing. And that's the hardest concept to explain, because I didn't get it for a long time. Even after I hit the digital lottery, I had millions of followers on TikTok, Instagram, and I was still putting pretty much all of it out there, trying to be genuine, trying to show people what I did on a day-to-day basis. And I reached a point, I want to say last summer, after months of performing, where I'm like, I'm tired. I want some time to myself. I want some time to just exist. I want some time where I don't feel like I need to be on. I want to sit there and just exhale for a change. And I feel like it's very easy to say that the wrong way. It's very easy for that to come across as, someone's like, oh, they're sick of fame. They're tired of fame. Well, they shouldn't have become famous if they weren't ready to do this. And look, there's some truth to that. I mean, fame is the prize, but fame is also the price that you pay. It is a toll that needs to be paid in many ways. So I do want to say, and I alluded to this earlier talking about Chappell Roan, which is my experience as a man is significantly easier. And I'll give you a couple of situations, couple of circumstances of how. If someone gets handsy with me, I am 6'1", depending on where I'm at in my fitness regimen, somewhere between 180 and 195 pounds, most of that being muscle. If I need to physically push someone away, if I need to grab someone's hand, I'm strong enough that I can do that. I'm not physically intimidated by most people. That is not a luxury or a privilege that most women enjoy. The average man is something like 40 pounds heavier than the average woman. It's a different physical power dynamic just by virtue of that. The other thing is also, because I'm a man, this is not scientific. There's probably some scientific study, but this is my anecdotal experience. People are nicer to me because I'm a man. If you don't believe that, I would encourage you to look at any female content creators' comment section. On average, they are generally significantly less nice than mine. I remember when I first got on the internet, first started doing content creation, I remember saying to someone, I was like, people are so nice. I was expecting the internet to be awful, and the internet has been so nice to me. And then I went and looked at like one of my female content creators friends' comment section, and it was everything I've come to expect from a comment section in my many years on this planet. The experience I have had is not typical to what everyone experiences on the internet, and that's an important thing to remember. The online situation, the online circumstance, the in-person interactions, all of these are kind of things that I expected. What has been more new, and it's been especially the last year or so that this has really ticked up, is me getting it recognized in person. And I am still not famous enough that out in the wild, out in public, that's still kind of a fun experience. Sometimes I don't like it, sometimes I do. But for the most part, it's been very, very pleasant, which is, the cashier at the grocery store says, hey, are you that guy? I was getting lunch with a friend that I hadn't seen in 25 years. And someone stops by our table and just says, hey, I just want to say I love your content, and moved right on. And those encounters, those experiences are lovely. Don't ever be shy. If you see me out in public, just say, hey, I know you. I like what you're doing. I love that. One of the other benefits of fame has been now people from my life, from my past, reach out to me. So that friend that I hadn't seen in 25 years, he was my best friend when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and he moved to a different town, moved to a different school. We never saw each other again. And he reached out back in April, and he was like, let me know if our schedules ever match up, and they did later this year. And so we got lunch, and we saw each other for the first time in, a quarter century. And that is wonderful. I love that. I've heard from so many people who used to be in my life, and they've all been very respectful of my circumstance and my situation. And that's why I say, like I did at the beginning of, there is a price to pay for fame in terms of, how you see your fans, the security measures you have to take, the safety measures you have to take. And there's a lot of security measures I've had to make at my house or on my online living space, all of these things that I've had to do. But then, the prize on top of that price is financial security, seeing friends that I haven't seen in decades, staying in touch with friends, making new friends as well. It has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. As long as I have some boundaries there, it has been a lot of fun. Those boundaries may change as I get older, as my following grows, if my following grows, whatever it may be. Overall, it's been very good. There are times when people don't respect boundaries where it gets a little tough, but overall, people have been very pleasant. I think back to, I don't think this is a direct quote, but I heard it attributed to Rob Paulson, a voice of Yakko Warner and many other voices from my childhood, from your childhood, probably as well. He said something along the lines of, I can be Yakko Warner. I can take 30 seconds out of my day and be Yakko Warner for someone in person. And that makes their day, it makes their month, it can make their year in some cases. So we, as people who are famous, have the power to just spread such extraordinary joy, and it's something to not be taken lightly. And so as my fame has grown and remains at a manageable level right now, I'm happy generally to do that. If you ever see me in public and you'd like a photo or a handshake or even a hug, just ask, and I'm okay with that generally. Sometimes I don't have time, and if I don't have time, I'll just say I don't have time. And I would love to generally. Or as one couple in Nebraska this summer learned, I might have food poisoning and just be like, sorry, man, I can't. I said at the start of this, I didn't want my interactions with fans to change. I wanted to make sure that I was still doing it right. And there's no right way to do it. Everyone's different. Everyone's mental health is different. Everyone's experiences are different. The right way for me is not necessarily the right way for Chappell Roan. Chappell Roan has a lot more on her plate than I do. And I'm really encouraged by the fact that people seem to be really, really supportive of Chappell Roan. I am 100% for setting boundaries and taking care of yourself. I remember I had an experience. I saw one of my favorite baseball players when I was a kid. And by a kid, I mean I was 20 years old. I had two experiences with two of my favorite players growing up. I saw one of them leaving Fenway Park one night, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, can I have an autograph?" And he's like, "Nah, man, I can't." And I let that exchange be like, all right, whatever. He's off doing things he didn't want to. I had another experience where I asked one of my other favorite players, I said, "Hey, can I have an autograph?" And he looked at me dead in the eyes and then just walked away. And I remember the feeling that I got there. And I don't fault him for it. He was busy. But I remember the feeling that I got in that experience. And I try to make sure that I don't give anyone else that experience. If you ever see me, again, just ask. I'm generally happy to do it unless I'm running to catch a flight or catch a train or catch a plane or catch whatever it is. I remember seeing professional sports players, young guys who, they were in college the year before and then suddenly they're starting for a professional team. And I've always wondered, what is their life like? How does your life change? That's a little bit of insight into how my life has changed. Have a wonderful day, and maybe see you soon. Cheers. He's just making some biscuits.
Toss a coin to your whipper, or maybe a 20, or maybe